Hey guys, thanks for watching. One of my favorite TV shows is Cobra Kai. I really love Cobra Kai. Now, I like the first season the best because I think they concentrated more on Johnny as being a sensei. I think they've kind of gone away from that a little bit. And I like the show. I like having more Johnny as sensei in it. Anyway, about Cobra Kai. I watch, various Cobra Kai videos and I read the comments. And something I'm interested in is usually when there's discussion of this character faced this character, who would win. And then in those videos, I read comments. And, there's one common misconception that I think Cobra Kai and Karate Kid fans have about the way martial arts goes. And this is what I want to try to explain. Is just because you had the same teacher doesn't mean that two students will be equal. Now, there are some people that think that Sato and Mr. Miyagi are equal because they both had the same teacher, Mr. Miyagi's dad, right? But that's false. And then Karate Kid Part 2, I think they try to portray that because, there was a log and Sato was, trying to break it. Now, I've seen people say that the way that the log was presented, it wasn't meant to be broken. But if you're watching that, it kind of seems, if my memory serves me right, it seems like Sato was kind of disappointed he wasn't breaking it. But anyway, when Mr. Miyagi goes and breaks the log, that clearly shows, it was understood between the two, I think, at that time, that Mr. Miyagi was better. But just because you had the same teacher doesn't mean that two are equal, and I think people need to realize that. Now, the first martial art, and probably the most impactful martial art is wrestling. Wrestling is. I wrestled. Do you think just because I had the same coach, everyone on the wrestling team's the same? No. There are some wrestlers better than me. There are some wrestlers that I was better than. Just because you had the same coach doesn't mean you're equal. And, whether two people had Kreese as a coach, whether two people had Terry Silver, whether two people had Sato or Mr. Miyagi or Mr. Miyagi's dad, it doesn't mean they're equal. And there's another point that I think people need to know is that just because one coach is superior doesn't mean an inferior coach can't have a better fighter. That happens a lot. And sometimes the student actually surpasses the coach. Again, I'll go to wrestling, for instance. At some weights, Iowa has a better wrestler than Penn State, but Penn State has the better coach. So, and then, and like Ohio State. Well, Ohio State has a wrestler that used to have a wrestler named Kyle Snyder. He wrestled for them. Now he's wrestling for the Penn State, club, but he used to wrestle for Ohio State, and he was, one of the best wrestlers of all time. While he was in college, he would have destroyed Tom Ryan, who is the Ohio State coach. So there comes a point where the student should become better than the teacher. Technique should only take you so far. Eventually, youth, and if you're younger and learning more things, but anyway, just this idea that I think people, they try to go back and say, well, this person, Chosen had Sato as a teacher, and Sato goes back to Mr. Miyagi's dad. When, Mike Barnes didn't have that, so automatically Chosen is better than Mike Barnes. And that's just not a very good argument. The quality of teacher doesn't always, some of the accountability is on the student and on the student's integrity. So I would like to correct that frame of thought. So anyone out there that tries to, first of all, there's two things I'm trying to say. Eventually, the student should surpass the teacher because the teacher gets old, right? And especially if the student is trying to learn new things. Well, obviously, Kreese was better than Silver when they were in Vietnam. Kreese was the one that was the champion, the two-time U.S. Army champion. But I think it's pretty obvious now that Silver surpassed Kreese. I guess that's one of my pet peeves about Cobra Kai is that Silver never should have, beat Johnny because Johnny was younger and he should be, Anyway, I'll say that for another video. Anyway, just because someone has a common teacher does not mean they're equal fighters. And the superior teacher does not always have the superior fighter. And I'll go wrestling because wrestling is what I know. There's many cases where the better wrestling coach in a given match, they might lose. That just happens. That's like, just because Mr. Miyagi trains someone doesn't mean that a Cobra Kai guy is automatically not going to be as good. And, I think we saw that with, Miguel being Robbie. Miguel was trained, and that was when, Johnny was strict Cobra Kai, and Robbie was, trained by Daniel. Anyway, friends, Cobra Kai, it's kind of over the top, not really that realistic. It's a great show, though. It's funny, but then the points where it's going to be dramatic, it does a very good job. So, guys, thank you very much. God bless you.